Good afternoon, Monroe County. I will call to order the Monroe County Solid Waste Management District Board of Directors meeting for August 11th, 2022. And we'll begin with a roll call of the board members.
Munson,
Here.
Thomas,
Here.
Githens,
Here.
Hamilton,
Here.
Piedmont Smith,
Here.
Jones,
Here.
Swafford.
Here.
All are present.
So let us note that we have one member, Mr. Hamilton, present on Zoom, and the rest of us are here in person. Our first business of today is to consider the appointment of a new controller for the district. And this is actually entirely the decision of the board, whereas other employees are hired by the director. And Mr. McGlasson, would you describe briefly our process for selecting this candidate to present to the board?
Certainly. I'm sure everybody is aware, our previous controller, Ms. Martin, resigned a couple of months ago, take a new position. So we advertised in a local paper and on some internet employment service websites for the position. Received a number of candidates that were initially reviewed by staff, identified, I guess, qualified candidates were forwarded to the executive committee for their consideration. They did select a total of 4 for interviews, 2 of which did accept the invitation to interview, and the executive committee did recommend bringing or request bringing one of those candidates to the board for consideration, which is we just had the executive session to discuss, and now we're here at the board's pleasure to take whatever action they see fit on that candidate.
Thank you. So the executive session has reviewed the qualifications of Ms. Holly Dewar, and we are ready to proceed. First, let's have a motion.
Madam Chair, I move that we offer the district controller position to Ms. Holly Dewar. A second.
We have a motion and a second. Board members, do you have any questions or comments? Seeing none of my. Ms. Piedmont Smith?
Thank you. As a member of the executive committee who interviewed Ms. Dewar via Zoom, I just want to say she made a very good impression. She has a very good credentials and experience as a bookkeeper and accounting specialist. And I think she will do a very good job for the district. Thank you.
So thank you. Other board members, Mr. Hamilton.
Thanks very much. I appreciate that and expect to support it. We don't have the resume, I don't believe, and I didn't know if anybody could just give a very brief outline of the candidate. That would be great, unless I missed it, or if there's a resume, I'm sorry if I missed it.
And so that was at our executive session that preceded this meeting.
You should, in addition to the regular board meeting packet. Yeah, there was a separate email with a packet sent out specific to the executive for the executive session. I apologize if you did not receive that, but that should have been sent to all board members.
So,
I bet I received it. My apologies. I'll check it now. Thank you.
okay, thank you. I will add that I too had the opportunity to interview Ms. Dewar, and both as part of our executive committee and then in person with Mr. McGlasson. And what I liked most about her was that she was very detail oriented and was ready to work both independently and as part of a team. And I think that is just what we need for a controller with our close-knit and hardworking district staff. So, any further questions or comments? Let us move then to a roll call vote.
Hamilton,
Yes.
Jones,
Yes.
Githens,
Yes.
Swafford,
Yes.
Thomas,
Yes.
Munson,
Yes,
Piedmont Smith.
Yes,
Motion passes.
thank you. Next, we have two sets of executive committee meeting minutes for May 31st and July 5th in your packets for your information. And we have one set of minutes for the Board of Directors to review and approve. May we have a motion for the board meeting minutes?
Madam Chair, I move approval of the Board of Director meeting minutes from July 14th, 2022.
I will second that.
Thank you. Questions and comments from board members? See none. We will have a roll call vote, please.
Piedmont Smith,
I will abstain since I wasn't there.
Yes.
Thomas,
Yes.
Jones,
Yes.
Munson,
Yes,
Hamilton,
Yes.
Swafford,
Yes.
Githens.
Yes.
Motion passes.
thank you. Next, we will move to the Comptroller's report.
Well, you just hired her. Where is she?
How fast can she put together a report?
I do apologize. She was offered the opportunity to attend the meeting and was unavailable to do so.
Okay,
Apologize. Let me get the packet up here. Technology is not working with me today. Oh, all right. So in the cash flows, have in your packet, the summary and then the individual cash flows for the various funds as of July 31st. The operating fund balance of $2,664,164.58. The savings account $1,001,777.17. The closure bond $31,322.20. The capital fund $45,444.59. And the landfill post-closure trust fund $737,992.12.
thank you. Next, we'll have, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't see you. Ms. Piedmont Smith.
Is this an appropriate time to ask questions about the cash flow statements?
Yes,
Okay, thank you. So I just had a few questions. First of all, in the revenues and the operating fund, it looks like wait a minute, am I on the right page? Yes. Revenues, yes, revenues. Okay, so some of them are quite a bit below what is to be expected compared with the total budget for this year, and some of them are quite high. So for example, the battery recycling, we expected $2,000. We've only taken in $687. Then there's the paint, where we have spent way more than was budgeted. $3,742. We budgeted $2,000. Our rental income is quite a bit more than I would expect for this time of year, but I know that those are kind of periodic revenues that don't come in every month. And then the tire recycling, I'm a bit confused about that one because it says $5,000 was budgeted, but we just started that program
Mhm.
in July, so I'm not surprised we're nowhere close to that. But if Mr. McGlasson could speak to those, I would appreciate it.
Some I can. As far as the paint and the battery recycling goes, I mean, that is, the paint is, fees that we receive. We have, latex paint is the only paint, that we have fees associated with for residents to bring us that paint. You know, we base what we budget, you know, based on our previous years, you know, actual experience, and where we are currently year to date. But it's not, you know, it's not necessarily a consistent or guaranteed flow of that material and those fees, and it does fluctuate year to year. Batteries is much the same way. No fees to the public on that. But you know, for batteries, you know, the bulk of that revenue comes from your auto batteries. You know, that have the lead in them. That's where we get, you know, a good chunk of money from. And again, it's, you know, based on what residents bring to us over the course of a given year. The budgeted amounts are based on previous year's experience, which is inconsistent. So we do our best to, you know, get as close to we can, estimate as close as we can. I would have to go back and look at information I don't have here to see if historically, you know, we get higher volumes of that stuff in the second half of the year than the first half of the year. Don't have that information with me. And then, yeah, the tire recycling is something that was strictly guesswork, brand new program. The 5,000 amount was based on, you know, having that program up and running toward the beginning of the year. Obviously, that didn't happen. So don't anticipate to reach that figure. Conversely, you know, there's a corresponding expense line related to dealing with those tires. We don't anticipate spending what we budgeted to spend out of that line because we're now dealing with the volume of tires that we anticipated. Was there another one?
The rental income, so I guess 1,950 is what we get periodically. Could you remind me what that is and why it's not every month? Like, is
That's
it quarterly
actually,
or-
that's actually, the bulk of that we get from Vector and Utility for underground storage out that their underground storage area is under some of the landfill parcels. And that's what we get that from.
And how often do they pay that?
I believe it is supposed to come a monthly, but I think you can see from the
So it looks
sheet-
like we've
the
gotten
sheet, it
3
looks-
months of,
yeah,
payments.
but I'm not positive on that. I can check into that and report back next month. There is an agreement in place and what the frequency of those payments is supposed to be.
yeah, or yeah, that would be great to report back on, or just email me those details. I'm sure we've gone over it before, so I apologize. It's a
fine.
repeat question.
Happy to answer the question.
I had a couple of others.
Please go ahead.
So then moving to the expenses, again, I just kind of look at the percent remaining. And, you know, if it is very high or very low at this, you know, point where in the 8th month of the year, then I kind of raise some questions. So I noticed in the other supplies line under expenses that we've spent $100,390 and we had a budget of $74,000. So that concerns me. Then the workers' comp, we've spent hardly anything. So that doesn't so much concern me as please me, but can you speak to the other supplies line?
You know, and I apologize. I can't. I'd have to go back and look at the claims. You know, obviously we're looking at, it's the January and June are the big months that we had expenditures out of that line. So I will want to go look at the claims off without, I mean, looking at what's listed there, what I'm not seeing that jumps out at me that would have payments like that is the orange bag order. And that may be lumped into that other supply category. And this is a situation where in order to report this to you in a concise format that's on one page and easy to read, we combine some of our budget lines into general categories. So sometimes when
Mhm.
questions like that come up, it's hard for me to look at that other supply term and realize and look at what all is in there without having the claims data in front of me. But again, something that could be researched and reported on at next month's meeting.
Okay, great. Yeah, if you could let us know next
Now,
time.
yeah, now the work comp, well, I'll probably should have similar percents remaining for our liability line. Those are those are our insurance policies, you know, auto insurance, you know, commercial liability. Those all renew in December of every year.
Mhm.
Oh,
So those payments will come out till December.
all right. Thank you so much.
Mayor Hamilton has his hand up.
Thank you, Mr. McGlasson. Mr. Hamilton, please.
Thanks so much. And Tom, we get to Mr. McGlasson. Sorry, we asked you questions without a controller here, but you know, here, I just got a quick one and you may want to get back to me also. I appreciate it. I'm on page 27 of the materials, and I appreciate that multi-year chart. And I just want to ask, I guess in June, we typically do get a big tax disbursement, and it always was over 800,000 for the last several years, as much as 900,000, but this year it's under 700,000. I just didn't know if what that reflected or what that is, or anyway, I just noted the amount increase was less than it typically has been. And if you know, that's great. If you don't want to get back to us, that'd be great. Thanks.
Yeah, off the top of my head, I do not, you know, have an answer to that. You know, that is something that's handled, you know, through the county, through the auditor's office, and they
Mhm.
deal with the tax collections and make the disbursement to us. Don't always get a whole lot of explanation if those amounts are different than what's budgeted, but you know, the disbursement is based on what's actually collected, not necessarily what is due. But that's certainly something that we could look into and figure out why that difference is there.
I'd appreciate it. It's $100,000 difference from the pattern, and if we could just understand it, maybe it'll get made up, or maybe it will. Who knows? But thanks for checking it out. Thank you.
So I think we can see from the graph on page 27 that whatever is done in terms of the state's distribution to the county and then from the county auditor to the district, it's a regular pattern. Because that's how the lines are all nearly parallel. But I noticed on this graph that there is no line for 2022 and only a partial line for 2021. And I'm wondering if we do have the right graph for this particular date.
I'm going to say no.
Okay.
And I apologize. That is completely on me. I'm the one that pulled that graph out to insert into the packet,
You
and
pulled the July graph and it was the
pulled
wrong
the wrong
year.
year. I apologize. So,
Oh, that's okay. Well, we will make up for this next month without a problem.
I didn't even notice the year. Thank you, Madam Chair. I was missing a whole year. Thank you very much.
But it's okay. I bet it follows the same path.
Yeah.
Since these have been very consistent.
good thing you have a controller coming in.
Okay, are there anything further on payroll and claims? I mean, cash flows? We can turn now to payroll and claims.
Yeah, you have in the packet all of the pre-approved payroll and claims from the previous board meeting. Should have received via email yesterday, claims that were processed this week. So under the claims for this week, we had a total payroll and claims under the pre-approved under resolution 2022-02 of $78,075.94. Also, this week, accounts payable claims for board approval in the amount of $2,488.66. And combined with the pre-approved claims from since the previous meeting, total payroll and claims for approval today of $154,495.99.
So do we have a motion for approval, or do we have questions? I'm not seeing any hands raised. Let's try
All right.
for, should they?
Mr.
Oh,
Hamilton.
Mr. Hamilton,
I'm sorry, but I do just, given that we don't have a controller, could we have at present, could we have an assurance that these have been reviewed in at least the normal process and have had eyes on them as needed? And I appreciate that. Thank you.
so we have an acting controller, Ms. Connie Hudson, who was our former controller prior to Ms. Martin. And we are very lucky that she could just jump back into her previous work, and the review was also made by Mr. McGlasson.
Yeah, at the bottom of the summary of the pre-approved claims and the sheet for the claims that were mailed out yesterday, there's an attestment statement signed by Ms. Hudson and myself that they've been
Yes.
reviewed and are deemed appropriate.
So I will move approval of payroll and claims as presented in our packet and with the addendum that was sent yesterday.
Second.
Thank you. Discussion, question, comments? Seeing none, we'll have a roll call vote, please.
Swafford,
Yes.
Hamilton,
Yes.
Thomas,
Yes.
Githens,
Yes.
Piedmont Smith,
Yes.
Jones,
Yes.
Munson.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay, now for the meat of our meeting, which is review of the proposed budget and a decision today on that budget to move it forward for the next stage of review at the county. Mr. McGlasson.
Yeah, I'll start reviewing the memo that's in your packet on page 41. Highlighting, I guess, a few differences from what was presented at the July meeting. I think at the July meeting, we mentioned that DLGF came back with some different excise tax estimates than what we originally provided for. Unfortunately, those were lower, but those have been adjusted in the budget to match their current estimates that were provided to us. It was mentioned during last month's meeting that if we should consider what was originally proposed for wages was 8%, if we should consider 8.5%. So that has been factored into this budget. It is an 8.5% across the board wage increase. Still with the other two positions with their additional increase that we, looking at comparable city and county positions to try to bring them in line with comparable positions at the city and the county. And then the two things made that possible. And what was presented to you last month in making all of these other adjustments, I realized the wages budgeted for our relief operators was built in twice. So we're able to make a reduction in the hourly wage line by correcting for that. And also our health insurance renewal came in about half of what was estimated, about 6.2%, and we originally were looking at estimated 13% based on what we'd experienced over the past few years. So those changes are what allowed the 0.5% bump in the proposed wage increase. Still do have the two new positions accounted for in this budget. We have, I guess, retitled one of the positions to a waste reduction specialist in an attempt to better describe what it is that we expect out of that position. And again, this position is being looked at to focus on the 5-year plan, goals and objectives. Obviously, there's a lot of outreach and education to help us pursue and achieve those, but there's a lot more to it than that. Additionally, you'll see in the memo, now for the health insurance line in our budget, the proposed budget is based on our existing coverage option and employees, the current enrollment, plus the 2 new employees enrolling in that. But working with our benefit administrator for this coming renewal period, we've also worked out the ability to provide a second option to employees. And that option would include a health savings account, which if people are familiar with health savings accounts, it's a cheaper coverage option on the premium side. It does have a lower deductible and a lower maximum out of pocket cost to the employees. But for initial healthcare services, there's more upfront cost to them. Hence the having that health savings account available for them to use pre-tax funds for that. Also, what the district is proposing to do for that insurance option for employees that choose to take the HSA option, due to the premium savings to the district on that, would like the district to fund that health savings account. Did put an initial funding in there of $1,000 for people with employee-only coverage, $2,000 for employees who have one of the family plans. The difference being because the deductible and out-of-pocket difference on those 2 plans is double. The family plans have twice the deductible and twice the out-of-pocket maximum as an employee-only plan. So, but if you look on, find this here, on page 44 of the packet, compares those 2 plan options, and if all employees went the health savings account route, even with the proposed contributions by the district to the accounts, the total annual premium is still less than the renewal rate of our existing coverage. So certainly think it's justifiable and doable to provide that funding to those accounts for the employees that choose to go that route. Unfortunately, for budgeting purposes, not knowing who's going to choose what, we want to make sure we can afford everybody continuing with the coverage that they currently have. So, and then I'll back up just a little bit. On page 43 of your packet, did want to, I can't remember that in my time as director, we've ever looked at this much detail of that health insurance line in the budget. But it's for the budget line, it's titled health insurance, but we have a lot more than just health insurance that does come out of that line.
So what page are you on?
I'm on page 43 of the
Oh,
packet.
43, I'm sorry.
So in addition to our health insurance, we also have dental and vision insurance, life, accidental death and dismemberment, and dependent life insurance, and short and long-term disability that come out of that line. So I just thought it would be good for the board to see everything that does come out of that line to understand. There's a very substantial line item in our budget, and I think it's good to understand everything that does come out of that line. So. I think that pretty much covers the summary I wanted to do. I do have presentations similar to what was presented last month available with this revised budget that I'm happy to present if anybody would like. We can go through it quickly and just highlight the changes from last month, or the board's decision.
Board members, do you have a preference? Pardon? Move quickly. I know there are some members have meetings after this one. We did review this in detail at the previous meeting. So if you are ready to move toward our resolution adopting the budget, that is on page 56 of your packet.
I actually have two questions. And
we do have
And we can
questions.
wait if you want. I can wait until the resolution's read.
Well, okay, let's go ahead now in case we have other information presented.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Okay. So the first question I have is, as you note on page 49 of the packet, the budget doesn't include an assistant operations director position. So you feel that that's sufficiently covered?
I'm sorry.
Do you
what-
feel
what-
that that position is sufficiently covered?
The Assistant Operations Director?
Mhm.
Yeah, this is, as I'm sure that you all are aware, our current Assistant Operations Director, Joey Long, has been acting in that capacity for
Right.
some time. It is something that he and I have discussed, and we believe that filling the Operations Director position and filling the currently vacant truck driver position, that the South Walnut facility would be able to operate without any
Mhm.
noticeable change to customers for services and programs without that Assistant Operations Director position.
Okay, I know we covered that last time, but that specifically wasn't discussed, so that's why I wanted to ask that, so thank you. The other question I have is on one of the new positions, and with the change in name giving some indication, waste reduction specialist, it's an outreach position as per the slide on page 49, right? So we already have one outreach person, and the question is that something that you could allocate some tasks differently and do a part-time hire? So in other words, allocate tasks to the current person differently, and change the outreach for youth to a part-time position or a 9-month position, depending. It just seems like, so the total with everything included for hiring a waste reduction specialist is over $82,000 a year. And it just seems like I don't feel convinced that reorganizing couldn't be done to accommodate that. And I also wonder what are the very specific tasks that the current outreach person cannot do that this person can do?
Well, I would, I guess in regards to our current, outreach position, obviously, we're all aware of the work in the school systems and how busy that position is, during the school year. But, one of the things that's happened over the past couple of years with the pandemic and the inability to be in the schools, we've begun to develop some other types of education and outreach, doing some webinars that we wanted to have the ability to continue with, even when we get back into the schools, and so the concern was stretching that position too thin. Now that's and I guess in direct response, to your question, no, we did not. I did not. Look at the ability to take either of those positions as a part-time position. either the current one or the proposed new one. It is certainly something that could be looked at. I'm not confident that it would work, but again, I have not looked at it. And with regard to the new position, we haven't had a whole lot of specific discussions, on a job description for that position, but we're looking at the 5-year plan, all the goals and objectives that are in that plan. And to be blunt, we're lagging. We're lagging in the timelines that we've set ourselves to achieve those goals and objectives. So and I think this was something that was originally proposed by the CAC is, can we bring somebody in to help start to move this stuff forward and get us back on schedule? And so, I get to that end, I guess just move forward under the assumption that a full-time person in that position would get us back on track faster than a part-time position would. Yes, I crunched the numbers for you. I know what that position, costs us. And I would say for this year, at least, it works in the budget. We do have a balanced budget that's being proposed, $60 surplus. But yes, it is, it costs, there's a cost other than wages associated with, having an employee, taxes, insurance, retirement contributions. So
That's right.
a $30,000 position costs a lot more than $30,000.
I guess I just feel like this hasn't really been vetted enough for me to be comfortable in supporting it now. I support the general philosophy of it, but it just seems like give this budget and then we'll figure out what to do with the person. And I think it should be the other way around. We have a definite need. Here are the very specific tasks we need this person to do that cannot be done by the current outreach person. I mean, we need to see, for me, I need to see that to understand why we're doing that. So for me, I feel like it's a bit premature. I think we should have this conversation, but I think it will require a little bit more analysis of the current job and the proposed job. And we don't even have a job description for the proposed job. The other job makes sense. And it's already, outlined. We know exactly what this person does. That totally fine. It's just when you have a brand new position, I think we need to give it a little bit more of a look. I agree with the philosophy. We do need to do more with outreach, but I don't know that we can't do that now and why we're not doing it now and what the shortfall is in terms of hours or what we actually need. So that's where I'm at on this one. Let's see if others have questions.
I would offer, that, this is the budgeting process and this is what's proposed in the budget, now, if the budget goes through and we know we have the funding there for that position, we can really work on a job description and defining that position. And, at the end of this year, the board will be asked to pass the salary ordinance. The board would have the option to not include that position in a salary ordinance if you're unhappy with, the task, the responsibilities, the job description that's put together for that.
I mean, that's one of the things I was going to ask is if this is something we can include in the budget now, but then remove before the end of the year. And that, because I would ask our executive committee, I know you're all very busy and you work very hard for the district and for all of us. But I would ask you all to look at what we do now with outreach. Look at time, look at tasks, look at how much time is spent on what and see what we need to do. And then I won't make a motion on this budget to reduce it. So I think that's a fair compromise. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Hamilton has his hand up.
Thanks very much. I appreciate that. One quick little nit, I think on page 46, and I know this is just summary for the board, so it's not official probably, but the total on the expense side is $1 million too high for the 2023 number, at least in my version. It's just added wrong. It's 2 nines. But my question is, the waste reduction effort, I agree is very important. And I'm kind of wondering, I guess, a couple things, whether there actually might be and maybe there is, but might be explicitly tied to increased investment that we achieve certain increased waste reduction. That is, that the investments are pointed toward seeing some waste reductions. I was just in touch with our sibling city, Palo Alto, and they have extraordinary waste reduction accomplishments, up around 80% of their waste stream diverted, really, intense renewals and extraordinary efforts. And I know also there's some discussion kicking around about a composting pilot at multifamily buildings, which I think would be an interesting idea. And I just wondered if there is room in the budget, or how would we move toward doing some pilot programs if we want to do those, or some targeted waste reduction strategies that would have outcomes kind of identified ahead, as Thomas indicated, maybe some more specificity about what we're getting, but not just inputs of efforts, but also outcomes. And just, I guess the specific question is, if we wanted to do a pilot support, and the city is interested in this too, and Ms. Piedmont Smith is ahead of me on this. She's been advocating for it, but the like a composting pilot with multifamily buildings, or a recycling pilot, or that kind of thing. How would that work in the budget? Would that have to be a separate motion next year? Do we have any room for that kind of thing?
Well, I will, and Ms. Piedmont Smith actually brought this up at the last executive committee meeting. We were a little short on time, but did briefly discuss this. And if we're looking at a short term or a one-time expense, to me, that is the perfect opportunity to do an additional appropriation and utilize our cash reserves to do something that we think really pushes forward what our mission is, or a goal that's in our plan. To me, that's an opportune time to dip into those cash reserves and try to make something like that happen.
Okay, if I may follow up, Madam Chair, thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. That's helpful. I guess I just want to go on record. I will be supporting this budget. I appreciate what you're doing. I do think it would be good to accompany the budget. And again, it may be there. I'm sorry, but to accompany the budget with some kind of outcome goals for the year. And I will be, I believe, supporting a concept of trying to advance some pilots and some efforts that would substantially, materially advance the waste reduction, landfill reduction efforts, because I think we can try to accelerate that. I think that's consistent with the plan. And I think this operating budget will help us do that. But I think I would like to see some kind of specific goals of waste reduction that we'd set, and they may need some pilot investments, but that could be a special appropriation as we go forward. That I'd welcome ideas and approaches to that. Thanks.
Thank you. Other questions and comments? Ms. Piedmont Smith?
Yeah, two things. First, I did want to also chime in about the possibility of a composting pilot program for multifamily residents. We know that a large percentage of Monroe County residents do live in multifamily apartment buildings, and there's a lot of waste, household waste, that could be composted that instead goes to the landfill from those buildings. So I think that I just want to be on the record as saying I would encourage and perhaps propose an additional appropriation next year based on our very healthy $2 million plus cash reserves to fund such a pilot program. The other thing I wanted to just mention or ask Mr. McGlasson to perhaps just briefly discuss is something we talked about also in the executive committee meeting, and that was the fact that our health insurance calendar year starts in October. And so the appropriation of funds for the new HSA program is kind of a calendar offset from when it would actually go into effect. So Mr. McGlasson, could you briefly touch upon that?
Yeah, I'm sorry, I did forget to mention that, and I think that is probably an important point to touch on. But yeah, and this is something that resulted from when the Affordable Care Act went into effect, and in order for the district to not fall into the marketplace, our renewal, we in essence went through a period where we had 11-month insurance policies, and the renewal got bumped up a month until that grandfathering clause expired. And then we stuck on an October 1st renewal date, which obviously is not ideal. It does not coincide with our fiscal year. It does not coincide to when employees receive wage increases to offset premium increases. With regard to the current renewal that is scheduled to happen on October the 1st, and funding HSA accounts for those employees. Based on having been through the first half of the year with, in essence, 2 vacant positions, a little over 2 with the period of the controller absence, we have money in the personnel services category to make that happen. Now, one other, I guess, aspect to this that we discussed at the executive committee meeting, I've been working with our, benefit administrator about what would it take to get us back on a January 1st renewal date. And unfortunately, there is no 3-month policy. There is no 15-month policy. So we'll go through this renewal period. And in essence, we'll seek new quotes at the end of this year for a policy that would take effect January 1. And obviously, it's going to be at a different rate than what this renewal is. We'll just have to see what happens with the market, and but we'll get those numbers. We'll review them with the executive committee and the board if appropriate, and if financially that it's something that is reasonable for the district to do, I would be very much in favor of doing that and getting us back on a January 1st renewal date.
Very good, thank you. I think there are more questions, Ms. Thomas?
Yeah, this is just in response to the idea of expanding composting, which is, it's a great idea. Every restaurant should be on a program. Every, homeowner should be able to access it. But right now we have a subscription service. The company we use has a limited amount of space. So the question is, are there enough providers in Monroe County to manage this? And if we're going to provide some sort of subsidy, how long will it be for, and who will it be for? Should we go for the restaurants and grocery stores first and then go smaller? I don't know the answer to that, but I mean, obviously we know from our waste study that this is a huge importance. And appreciate the idea of doing that. I just don't know who that provider might be in terms of space and in terms of the ability to transport. And then the question then becomes, who do we help subsidize and how do we make that decision? So thank you.
Ms. Piedmont Smith?
I would just, obviously, there are a lot of details to talk about before the board would vote on funding a pilot project. But I did want to mention that I've had several discussions with Earthkeepers who are eager to launch such a pilot. So I think at least the pilot project would have capacity, and I think it would be a proof of concept for perhaps other people to get into that business. But yes, clearly we have more to discuss before we would move forward with that. And I think, I'm sorry, Mayor Hamilton, I think I jumped ahead of you.
So thank you. Mr. Hamilton, your hand is still up.
Yeah, I put it up again. Sorry. Just one other question. Thank you. And we've talked about this. I just want to, a lot of us are dealing with budgets for next year, and many of us have complicated weighing of this and that. And I thought for the public and for ourselves, just to remind us, in terms of the basic cost of living adjustment increase, while many of us have pretty varied and complicated approaches to that, as I understand, Mr. McGlass, and you reported last time that the Waste District has a long tradition of tying directly to the consumer price index 1 year, a fixed flat amount the next year, and rotating between those, but that whatever that CPI is, that's been a pattern of adopting that as the COLA. Is that right? Do I recall that correctly?
But they're not doing it.
No.
Yeah, we used clerical and wage earners, urban CPI index,
Okay.
yeah,
Yeah.
Midwestern, so.
Thank you. I just think it's helpful to note that when that's up or down, whichever it is, that the tradition has been to use that as the indicator, and that's what you're doing again this year. Is that right?
Yeah, and what was presented last month, that, I mean, for each month of this year, that index has been over 8%.
Okay, thank you very much.
So I would note for clarification that the alternating flat cost of living increase and one peg to a a Midwestern cost of living index is something that the county does, alternating year by year. And we don't always follow the cost of living index. We just we are guided by it, and we look at this relative to our revenues as another factor. So I would like to offer a comment back to the point of personnel and new staff. And that is, when we are budgeting for the district, we are doing an 18-month projection. We are looking right now to cover all of 2023. And that 17 months. 17 months. And if we are to be able to do something starting 5 months from now, we need to be able to plan the funding now and work out the details, as we have been discussing today, in the time that's available to us before we would start the new positions. So I appreciate everybody's comments today, and I want to ask if you have further questions.
I just want to comment and say thank you to staff, Mr. McGlasson, and the executive committee for putting this together. I appreciate all the hard work. I know it's not easy. I've been there.
So thank you. So if we have no further questions, let us move then to a resolution regarding the operating budget. And that is number 2022-08. Ms. Piedmont Smith.
Yes, Madam Chair, I move resolution 2022-08, Monroe County Solid Waste Management District, adoption of 2023 operating budget. And just to summarize, our budget is total revenues of $2,966,694 and total expenses of $2,966,631.
I'll second.
Thank you. Any further discussion here? A roll call vote, Mr. McGlasson?
Public comment?
I can't.
Public comment.
Oh, thank you for that. Is there any public comment? We have important public comment.
Might have somebody on Zoom. I don't know who's joined.
We have one attendee. Hello,
Yes, hello.
welcome.
Thank you. This is Joseph Bonilla, Chair of the Citizens Advisory Committee. I just wanted to say thank you also for taking the opportunity to review the CAC's feedback on the proposed budget, and I appreciate all of your questions and considerations as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for speaking with us today, and thank you and the CAC for meeting and preparing your letter for us. So now we'll have a roll call vote, please.
Jones,
Yes.
Piedmont Smith,
Yes.
Githens,
Yes.
Munson,
Yes.
Hamilton,
Yes.
Thomas,
Yes.
Swafford.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Now on to debt service and Mr. McGlasson.
I have a point of order, Madam
Yes.
Chair, if I may. I just wanted to inquire, I believe our rules as far as meeting attendance and voting indicate that votes on a budget must be done in person. And so Mayor Hamilton is not here in person. I appreciate his vote, but I wonder if officially we're allowed to record that.
I apologize. I believe that you
That is
are
true.
correct.
It is true.
Yes.
It-
Uh,
I
Mayor
remember it
Mayor
now.
Hamilton's vote should probably be stricken, as it, and, but the vote would still pass.
I think that's correct. I do recall it now. And it's just such a harsh term to say stricken.
I will follow whatever. I apologize. I couldn't get there in person. I thank you all for what you're doing and treat my vote however it needs to be treated. Thank you so much.
Okay. So thank you, Mr. Hamilton, and thank you for clarifying that. We're not used to hybridizing our budgets, are we? Okay, on to debt service. The packet just goes to the resolution. Do you have a presentation for us before the resolution, Mr. McGlasson?
Nothing changed from the July presentation and for the debt service budget.
Okay.
Tax expenses,
I think
revenues and expenses
we could
remain
just go
the
to
same.
resolution.
Okay, Madam Chair, I move resolution 2022-09, Monroe County Solid Waste Management District adoption of 2023 debt service fund budget. And we have budgeted revenues of $305,370 and expenses in the same amount.
A second.
Thank you. Is there any discussion, board members? Any questions? Is there any public comment?
I assume I don't vote. I assume I do not vote on this as well, correct?
Correct, because
Thank
it's
you.
another budget.
Right.
We will have a roll call vote.
Jones,
Yes.
Piedmont Smith,
Yes.
Swafford,
Yes.
Githens,
Yes.
Munson.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay, and one more budget adoption. And that is for cumulative capital fund. Ms. Piedmont Smith,
Yes, I move resolution 2022-10, Monroe County Solid Waste Management District, adoption of the 2023 cumulative capital fund budget. And the budget amount is $45,445. But we have no budget really. 0 revenues and 0 expenses are expected. Thank you.
A second.
thank you. Questions or comments from the board?
If I may, just, yes.
Okay, go ahead.
That is a little confusing.
We have,
We are not requesting any appropriations out of this budget, but a few years ago, in our meeting with DLGF, it was suggested to us by the DLGF representative that we go ahead and adopt the cumulative capital fund budget with no revenues and no expenses. That way you have the budget on record, and if something were to happen during the course of the year and you wanted to seek an additional appropriation from that fund, you have that budget acknowledged by DLGF, and we can do that.
Thank you. So is there any public comment? Seeing none, we'll have a roll call vote.
Githens,
Yes.
Swafford,
Yes.
Munson,
Yes.
Jones.
Yes.
Piedmont Smith,
Yes,
motion passed.
So thank you, board members. That takes us through our budget endeavors, and we do have more of our regular meeting. Next, we'll hear from the CAC with their report. Hello again.
Hello again, board members. So again, not an awful lot to report from CAC activities in this last month. At our regular meeting, we did just have a discussion about a potential reusable food storage container initiative in the community. We did get through our budget review special meeting and provided our feedback letter. And the last item is that at the start of the month, as you were all notified, long-term member Rondi Cox submitted her letter of resignation from the CAC. So that is what has taken place in our last month.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I would like to say thank you to Rondi Cox. And we hope that you might return to work with the CAC and the Solid Waste District at some future date. Thank you for your service. Next, we'll have department reports.
I just start, Ms. Hudson and I are very grateful that you've made an offer on the controller position. Thank you very much. That is gonna take a little bit off our plate, so we're very appreciative of that. And I just, to add my 2 cents from what members being a part of the interviews, that I'm confident in Ms. Dewar, and I think that she'll fit in and we'll all work very well together. So thank you. I really don't have a whole lot to report. We've been consumed with finding a controller and preparing a budget. You have in my written report the same general summary of our outreach and education efforts. And I'd be happy to answer any questions if anybody has any.
No. Ms. Piedmont Smith.
yes, I'm glad to read that there was a home composting workshop on July 23rd. Was that conducted by district staff or by our friends at Earth Keepers, or who led that?
Ms. Procrawl conducted that.
Okay.
And it was not limited to, but that was a follow-up done in conjunction with the compost sale that we had done, that we've done every Earth Day the past few years.
The compost bins?
The compost
Yeah.
bin. This was a follow-up with the people who purchased the compost bins, and free opportunity for them to come and get tips and make sure that they're using it correctly. And the workshop was not limited to the purchasers of the compost bin, but that's who it was geared toward.
All right, great, thank you. Madam Chair.
Go ahead, Ms. Gibson.
Thank you. Mr. McGlasson, do we have any idea when the new controller will start?
I do not. That is either yet this evening or first thing in the morning. We'll get that figured out. Just standard policy from the district. You know, we do pre-employment drug screening, so it will not occur until we get those results back.
So thank you. Is there anything further, Mr. McGlasson, or should I go on with Mr. Long's report?
Yes, I have nothing else. If there's
Okay.
no other question.
Hello, Mr. Long. We're looking forward to your report.
Hello, everybody. I will start with the recycling down here at South Walnut. We was able to ship out 15 gaylords of clothing to Martin County that we've collected over the year. That averages out to about 4,000 pounds. Martin County then goes through the clothing and sees what they can take and offer to their community and surrounding communities. Then all the other textiles gets recycled. So that's something good about clothing, that You know, it's not just thrown away that nobody wants. It's able to help other communities around us. The materials for the arts, we've had 12 different agencies come in, and that's not teachers, you know, for the start of the year. That's places like YMCA, Life Designs, Area 10. They've used us every week this month. So that's really good that, you know, we are reaching out to other agencies that can help. The Green Business Network, we've signed on 3 new businesses for the month of July, and that means that, you know, in full swing, we have picked them up and done their recycling at least once for the month of July, and we will continue rest of the year with them guys also. So, you know, that's 3 more businesses that we are helping with the recycling. The hazardous waste, we are averaging 4 tires per week, and that's 3 to 4 customers. So, you know, one customer may bring in 2 tires, but on average, you know, we are getting 4 tires per week. And the credit debit card machine has been a big hit. You know, nobody carries cash anymore. I don't. So we're not sending people home with hazardous waste or a tire now, to where in the past we had to, because we wasn't able to offer a credit or debit card. So now we're able to take stuff when people come in without that, and that's great. And rural sites, bulky items, they have been busy. I've talked to staff numerous times throughout the month, people moving into town, people moving out of town, and we have just been busy. And that's what I have. I will do my best to answer any question.
Any questions for Mr. Long? Ms. Piedmont Smith?
Yes, Mr. Long, thank you for your report. Can you just remind me what the cost is for bulky item disposal?
We offer it to Monroe County residents only for free. So there's no cost to the customers. Now, we have a cost on the backside of paying to dispose of the trash. But Monroe County residents are able to use it for free.
That's great, a great public service. Thank you very much.
So, and it's a great service that keeps our roadsides and other rural areas free of trash. So I'm
Yes,
just happy.
Yes, that and the
Well,
tires.
almost free of trash.
Yeah, you know, if we're getting the couches and the mattresses at the bulky items for free, that means it's not on the roadside. And the 3 to 4 tires a week, that's, you know, a good chance they're not ending up somewhere.
So all you people tossing things along the road that have to be picked up by somebody, including somebody from the district. Hey, guys, it's free. Just go do it. Take care of it.
Yeah.
So thank you, Mr. Long.
Thank you, guys.
And now let's hear from Mr. Paulson, who includes among his work the problems people leave on the roadsides.
Good afternoon, Lee Paulson, Landfill and Compliance Director. The only thing I would really point out from my report is that we've a week or so ago we received the statistics report back for the May groundwater that Tom and I have gone through and made sure that we got everything. So I got the final piece back today. So now I'm starting to put together the report for the state. So hopefully I'll have that submitted to the state Monday or Tuesday next week. There really wasn't anything out of line from what we've had past many sampling events. The numbers of certain pollutants are all in line with what we've experienced before between our summer and winter samples. So nothing shouldn't be any issues. We should just continue as normal. And then the other thing would put our compliance numbers, that seems to be a topic of conversation. As of the end of July, our compliance numbers overall are higher than they were last year. And last year was our highest number of compliance cases that we've ever had. Our weight is down about 1,000 to 1,500 pounds. I had that written down on a piece of paper and I can't seem to locate it right now, but weight wise we're down, overall numbers were up. And then Mary Beth is doing a very good job of she communicates a lot with what she's doing with cases in regards to when she goes to people's houses and encouraging people that she is working with to use as many of the resources that the district offers for free as possible. Or even some of the low cost ones like disposing of Freon type things and things with screens. So she is definitely putting in the work to try to communicate with people about, you know, what we have and what we offer that are at no cost to the residents. So, the other thing is now that this year should be a pretty interesting year with all the IU students and IU groups back. We're trying to engage the groups and the IU groups that haven't really been participating the past couple of years due to the pandemic with the Adopt a Road program. So we're trying to find some ways to engage them and find out who's available, who's not available, and should see some interesting numbers this fall. Hopefully the weather will be okay on the weekends when a lot of these young people want to do these kind of things. So we're hoping for the best. So, any questions? I'll do what I can to answer.
Board members? Like, okay. Thank you, Mr. Paulson.
Okay, all right.
So at the conclusion of our meeting, we have public comment and we have a public here, and I don't believe we have anybody online.
No.
Any public comment? I have the public shaking his head. Okay. And we have comments from directors. But I have one comment that actually is a letter that I wish to read. Is that right? Do you want me to take what you have right there, or shall I read from my screen? I can read from my screen here. As you all know, our longtime Assistant Operations Director, Mr. Scott Morgan, has retired, and I thought it very appropriate for this board to commend his service and to write to him with our thoughts. So here is a letter from the board to Scott Morgan. Dear Scott, on behalf of the Monroe County Solid Waste Management District Board of Directors, I want to take this opportunity to recognize your 28 years of service and planned retirement from the district. While the end of your employment with the district is not happening under circumstances that any of us would like or could have predicted, we understand that one's health and quality of life must be the priority. This does not take away from all that you have accomplished. The district would not be where it is today without your significant contributions over the years. Your efforts have helped grow the district into one of the premier solid waste management districts in the state of Indiana. Our recycling drop-off locations are a vital part of the community that are regularly complemented by residents and the vendors who service them. The Household Hazardous Waste Program has been recognized many times as one of the best in the state and serves as a resource for other solid waste districts' household hazardous waste programs. The Green Business Network has grown to provide recycling services to over 60 local businesses. Just 3 new ones were mentioned today. And the bulky item program has expanded from an annual event to being offered throughout the year and provides a disposal option for many waste materials that would otherwise litter our community. These accomplishments would not have been possible without your hard work, guidance, and leadership. Individuals who commit 28 years of their life to a single organization are not very common in today's world. Such dedication and loyalty is commendable and very much appreciated by the members of the board, both past and present. While we are sorry to see you go, please know that we wish you well and hope that you can take advantage of the opportunity to pursue your interests more fully and enjoy your retirement. You, sir, will be missed. Sincerely, the Board of Directors. So thank you, Scott. And that is all we have for today. If there's no objections, we will adjourn this meeting. Thank you, and thank you, TSD.